Hi, everyone. I'm Chris, and I'm here with Mike. And today we're going to be talking about how Ergosoft can automatically generate cut lines for you. Mike, let's say I'm an Ergosoft user. I have a cutter, but my artwork doesn't have cut paths in the file. How can Ergosoft help me?
Sure. Good question. The first step is to import your image. So let's do that real quick. I have a star here. This star has no cut paths on it at all. It's literally just a yellow star, a gold star. I also want to turn on cutting. So this is your contour cutting button next to your cut environment. I'm going to turn that on. And I'm also going to switch to the print and cut workspace. It is up here in the view menu. We're just going to click on it, same thing. So now we're in the print and cut workspace. As you can see on the right side in the preview selection here, there's no red cut line around the star. So that's what we're going to generate. I'm going to select the image and I'm going to use bleed cut lines on the right over here in properties and actions. There's two options in here, bleed and cut lines. You can do bleed and or cut lines. You don't have to do both. You can do one or the other. In this example, I'm going to do both. And let me go through the settings for you. We're going to do a 1/4 inch of bleed all the way around the star. Mainly that's for cutting, so you're not left with like a little tiny white sliver of material after you cut it. And we're going to add a cut line. I'm going to do a distance the distance is from the image. So if you want to cut right on the edge of your artwork, you want to use a distance of 0. I'm going to use 1/100 of an inch for the thickness of your line. And I'm going to give it a name. The name I have set up is cut path. You'll see why in just a minute, but that's the name I use mostly for my cut paths. And we're going to hit add. If you watch the image, you're going to see it process for a second. And now it looks kind of almost like bloated a little bit, to be honest with you. And it looks like the edges aren't quite as pointy like they used to be. I'll show you. So what that is the white line in here is the cut path and the yellow around it is the bleed. That's why it looks kind of bloated, because it has the rounded points, and that's because of the bleed. One more thing we have to do though is, if you notice here, we still don't have the cut path previewing. So we have to tell it what to use as the cut path. So with our image unselected, on the right we have our properties and actions for the job. We're going to use job cut settings. This is where we can set up our cut path for the job. I have one pre-made already named cut path. And as soon as I select it, you can see it gives you that red star. And what that is, I can show you, is this is your cut path settings. If you were creating a new one, we did cover that in a previous video if you guys are interested. But if you're creating a new cut path, you can do this. You can do path from image data, spot color named cut path. So that's why when I generated the cut path and bleed, I used the same name because I already had the setting. If you had it called path or cut or Bob, you can literally name it whatever you want, but it is case sensitive. So let me just hit cancel since I already have that created. And I mean, that's basically it. So now if you ripped and printed this and cut it, you would have a cut path generated where the white line is on your on the star here, right there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, short version, Ergosoft can automatically generate a cut line around an image in a file. Now, what if we wanted to cut around the border of that image and not cut out the star in this case?
Yeah, sure. So for that, we would just use, I just showed you, let me import this image again. I'm not going to add the bleed cut line. So as you can see here now, there's no cut path just like before. But this time, let me show you. I have rectangle created. You see how it's generating a red line, which is the cut path preview around the artboard of the image. The way you would create that, the same way, if we hit this new plus button over here, the same way we talked about using the cut path and from image data, you don't have to do any of that if you're doing just a rectangle of the image. You can, on the bottom, you can select cut image border, and you have a couple options if you want rounded corners or cut corners. But if you just use regular rectangle and you save it as a cut path, which is what I did here, named rectangle, all that's going to do is cut the image border. So if I zoom out a little bit, maybe duplicate this a few times. So you see there's 4 squares now, 4 rectangles. And that's going to be any shape, just for instance, like that. So now it's going to cut this one. It's a different shape. So it's basically going to literally cut the border of your image, like the artboard of your image, out. It's going to use that artboard image to generate your cut path.
Very nice.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. So to summarize, basically, if you have art that you're looking to use in the cutting process, not to worry, Ergosoft has you covered. It's pretty easy to use and makes things very quick and efficient. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, please contact us.